So right now, as we're starting, they are doing the live announcement of the Game Awards nominees. Like, does anyone like really care? Like enough to watch it live?
Jeff Keighley, and it is finally time.
Geoff Keighley. I mean, like, it's not the Game Awards. It's him saying what will be at the Game Awards. Okay.
Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis, Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Okay.
Idris Elba as Solomon Reed, Cyberpunk
Easy clap.
2077,
That takes it.
Phantom
Idris
Liberty.
takes it.
Melanie Liebert as Saga Anderson, Alan Wake 2. Neil Newbon as Astarion, Baldur's Gate 3.
No, that's a fair one.
And Yuri
Okay.
Lowenthal as Peter Parker, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. For Best Ongoing Game, the nominees are Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, Genshin Impact. In the category of Best Multiplayer, presented
Respectfully, I think you got to give it to Fortnite, though. Like, what other game is driving, what was it, 44 million players in a day? Like 5-6 years after launch? It's got to be Fortnite,
The
right?
nominees for Best Art Direction are Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P,
Oh, yep.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
It's going to be Super Mario that
The
wins,
Legend of
but it
Zelda,
should be
Tears
Lies
of
of
the
P.
Kingdom. For Best Score and Music, the nominees are Alan Wake 2, composer Petri Alonko, Baldur's Gate 3, composer Borislav Slavov, Final Fantasy
Yeah,
16,
Slavovs.
composer Masayoshi Soken, Hi-Fi Rush, audio director Shuichi Kobori, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, composed
Baldur's
by
Gate.
Nintendo Sound Team. The Best
Hi-Fi
Audio
Rush was
Design
very good too,
nominees
though.
are
That's fair.
Alan Wake 2, Dead Space, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4. Best Adaptation recognizes excellence in authentically creating shows, movies, and other creative endeavors based on video game worlds and characters. Here are this year's nominees for Best Adaptation: Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us,
It's got to be The Last
Super
of Us,
Mario
right?
Brothers movie, and Twisted Metal.
Like, The Last of Us
narrative, the
spilled
nominees
over
are
into, like, the
Alan Wake
mainstream,
2,
hardcore. It's got to be
Baldur's
The
Gate
Last
3,
of Us.
Cyberpunk 2077,
Baldur's
Phantom
Gate has
Liberty,
to take narrative.
Final Fantasy 16, and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Games for Impact celebrates thought-provoking games with profound pro-social meaning. This year's
Pro-social,
nominees
as
are
opposed to
A
antisocial.
Space for the Unbound, Chance of Sonar,
So does that mean if they weren't nominated, they have an antisocial message?
Terra Nil, and Venba.
Never heard
Best
of any of them.
Independent game, the nominees are Cocoon, Dave the Diver,
Dave the Diver,
Dredge.
that's very good. Dredge is very
Sea of
good.
Stars, and Viewfinder. For Best Mobile Game, the nominees are Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis,
How about Crisis?
Honkai Star Rail, Hello Kitty Island Adventure, Monster Hunter Now, and Terra Nil. Best Community Support acknowledges a game for exceptional support, transparency, and responsiveness to players. The nominees are Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2,
Probably Baldur's
Final Fantasy
Gate.
14, and No Man's Sky. Okay, now it's time for Best Debut Indie Game, which recognizes a development team that hasn't been on the TGA stage before. In fact, these teams published their first game in 2023. The nominees are Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venba, and Viewfinder. For Best VR AR Game, the nominees are Gran Turismo 7, Humanity, Horizon Call of the Mountain,
No way.
Resident Evil Village VR Mode, and Synapse. For Content Creator of the Year, the nominees are
A bunch of people I've never heard of.
People Make Games,
I've heard of them.
Brackety, Screen,
Nope.
and Cypher PK. What's your most anticipated upcoming game? Remember, this has to be a game that's officially
People Make
announced.
Games. They're the ones that did that
Nominees are
documentary on
Final
Disco
Fantasy
Elysium,
VII
weren't they?
Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8.
Outlaws out of
Your
those, I
nominees for
think.
Best Action Adventure Game are Alan Wake 2, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. For
Probably
Best
Spider-Man or
Role-Playing
Zelda.
Game, the jury selected Baldur's Gate 3, Final
How does
Fantasy
anything other
16,
than Baldur's Gate win
Rise
RPG
of
though?
P,
Like, let's be honest.
Sea
How
of
does anything
Stars,
else
and
take it?
Starfield. In the
Lamau.
category of Best
We're
Fighting
aiming for a
Game,
controversial
the nominees
7 out
are
of 10.
God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon's All-Star Brawl 2,
Okay.
Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. The nominees for Best Action Game are Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2,
Oh yeah,
Ghost
that
Runner
was
2,
this year.
Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. Innovation and accessibility celebrates games that are making our industry available and enjoyable to more people. Selected by a special committee of accessibility experts, this year's nominees for innovation and accessibility are Diablo 4, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, and Street Fighter 6. Next up, Best Family
I have no idea
Game.
about those.
The nominees are Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Probably Super Mario.
The Best Sim Strategy nominees are Advance Wars 1 and 2.
It seems like if Super Mario is ever nominated for anything, they probably take it.
Company of Heroes 3,
People are crazy
Fire
for Mario,
Emblem
dude.
Engage, and Pikmin 4. This year, these 5 games are nominated for Best Sports Racing. EA Sports FC 24, F1 23, Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged,
Hell yeah.
and the Crew Motorfest. Now a look at our esports categories, starting with Best Esports Game. The nominees are Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, League of Legends, PUBG Mobile, and Valorant. Your Best Esport Athlete nominees are Demon 1,
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Hydra,
Never heard of him.
Imperial Howl,
Never heard of him.
Ruler,
Never heard of him.
and Zywoo.
No clue.
For Best Esports Team, our committee nominated these teams: Evil Geniuses Valorant, Fnatic Valorant, Game & Gladiators Dota 2, JD Gaming League of Legends, and Team Vitality Counter-Strike. The Best Esports Coach nominees are Potter,
Like, I appreciate them trying to get esports into the mainstream and stuff, but so often it just feels like that thing from Mean Girls. Stop trying to make fetch a thing. You know, nobody cares. Stop it. That's so fetch.
Blast
That's
TV
so
Paris
esports.
Major 2023, Evo 2023, the International Dota 2 Championships 2023, and Valorant Champions 2023. All right, you ready? It's time for our final 2 categories. Best Game Direction, which recognizes extraordinary creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. This year's nominees
What we
are
got?
Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
I think Baldur's Gate or Zelda.
Okay, finally, on behalf of the jury, I am proud to announce the 6 nominees selected for outstanding creative and technical excellence. The nominees for Game of the Year at the Game Awards are
Let's see.
Alan Wake 2, developed by Remedy Entertainment, Baldur's Gate 3 from Larian Studios, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games, Resident Evil 4 from Capcom,
Surprising.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder from Nintendo,
Lamau.
and The Legend of Zelda
Yeah,
Tears
shocker,
of the
right?
Kingdom from Nintendo.
What?
And there you have it.
Okay, enough, Jeff. Enough Geoff Keighley. It's fine. I don't see how anything other than like Tears of the Kingdom is a serious contender against Baldur's Gate. As for like, I know some people are like, oh, so no Starfield. That's not really a shocker. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm not surprised about that because like, I mean, the general consensus with Starfield is that it's like high 7s, like maybe low 8s out of 10, but it's not like Game of the Year material. So that doesn't really surprise me. What I am also not really surprised by is Hogwarts Legacy being largely ignored. And I think it makes sense, like these guys, because Hogwarts Legacy was quite controversial, shall we say. I think they just decided to not nominate it for anything and move on. I thought maybe they'd nominate it and then just not awarded anything, but I think it deserved like I don't think it even got nominated for best music, did it? Like best soundtrack. The fact that it didn't get nominated for soundtrack is like laughable, honestly. And I know you could argue like, oh, well, but it's not like music that they wrote. They based it off of music from the movie. So it's not really like they built the whole thing from scratch. And I guess you could argue that. But if you're going to do that, I don't think you can nominate Resident Evil 4 for anything. Because anything you want to compliment Resident Evil 4 for, you can just be like, well, the original designers did it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just shocked that Hogwarts Legacy didn't even get music as a nomination. Like that's pretty laughable. That's pretty laughable. Like you can say a lot. You can be like, oh, well, the writer is a bigot and I don't want to participate. Okay, that's cool. Or you can be like, oh, there was a lot of technical issues. Totally agree. Fair. But how are you going to tell me with a straight face that the music with Hogwarts Legacy is not amazing? Like, come on. Come off it. How is Alan Wake 2 nominated for as much as it is, yet no Hogwarts? Personally, I understand why people like Alan Wake 2 as much as they do. I like it a lot. I think, like, the story is where it's really good, and I think that that's fair. But in terms of gameplay, I find Alan Wake 2 to be woefully lacking. Armored Core, that's totally fair. That's fair. Remnant 2, totally agree. Hi-Fi, I agree. Ghost Runner, I'm gonna be real, no clue. Didn't touch it. Dead Island 2, is good. And I mean, it definitely was surprising how good it was. Everybody was braced for that to be a total flop after being in development hell for so many years. But it ended up being pretty good, which is a lot more than a lot of people thought. Hogwarts Legacy getting shut out. Yeah. I really think it was a more controversial game, so they decided not to even touch it. Isn't Spider-Man an action game? I think it's more of like action adventure, but I mean, you're right. It is really hard to say like which of these is considered what, because some of these I think span like action adventure. Their website's down. Are that many people really trying to pull up the Game Awards nominees? I guess we're doing it. I'm part of the problem. Geez, you know, who cares? I mean, I think it's very like, you don't know. Some of these games cross over, like, you know, is it action? Is it action adventure? Can it count towards both? Can you give an action adventure game the award for action adventure and also action? At the end of the day, like, it's all just made up anyways. So like, who really cares? You know, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, all that really matters is what you personally enjoyed the most this year. And if that happens to get awards, awesome. Awesome. If it doesn't get awards, who cares? Doesn't matter. If your favorite game of the year was freaking Starfield, awesome. If your favorite game of the year was Forspoken, cool. Whatever. He took my thing. Red flag, red flag.
16 times the detail.